How to get rid of abusive people. On our journey to a more serene and virtuous life, Stoic philosophy offers us valuable tools for navigating the complexities of human relationships. Rather than focusing on controlling the behavior of others, something that is beyond our control, Stoicism invites us to direct our attention to what we can control, our own perceptions, judgments, and reactions. When it comes to identifying signs of an abusive person, Stoic wisdom does not provide us with a list of red flags to apply to others, but rather an internal guide to protecting our peace of mind and virtue in the face of behavior that is not aligned with reason. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the distinction between what is within our control, our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions, and what is not within our control, our bodies, property, reputation, and crucially, the behavior of others. Recognizing abuse, from this perspective, is not about trying to fix the other person, but rather about recognizing that certain behaviors are detrimental to our own virtue and peace of mind. It is about understanding that the abusive person, no matter how much pain they cause us, is acting according to their own mistaken judgments, and that the only way to protect ourselves is by cultivating our resilience and wisdom. Although Stoicism does not categorize behaviors as abusive in the same way that modern psychology does, it does enable us to recognize actions that demonstrate a lack of reason, self-control, and respect. Here is how Stoic philosophy helps us interpret and respond to these signs. Anger is an irrational passion, a hasty judgment that something terrible has happened to us. Those who indulge in it are hurting themselves more than the target of their fury. Your partner explodes because you forgot to buy something at the grocery store, hurling insults. Instead of taking personal offense or trying to calm the other person's anger, you can recognize that their anger is theirs, not yours. You are not the cause of his anger, but rather his reaction to what has happened. Remain calm, observe his emotions without getting involved. If he is not open to rational dialogue, you can temporarily step away to preserve your own peace. Think to yourself, he is agitated by something he perceives as a problem. My peace does not depend on his anger, but on my own virtue. The virtue of justice compels us to treat others with fairness and respect, recognizing their dignity as rational beings. Disrespecting the rights of others is a failure of reason. Your partner constantly interrupts you, ignores your input in joint decisions, or does not respect your personal space. You can assert your boundaries clearly and calmly without getting involved in heated arguments. You can't control whether or not your partner will respect them, but you can control your decision not to tolerate continued violations of those boundaries. Think to yourself, I can't control whether he interrupts me, but I can control whether I allow him to do so indefinitely. Chronic negativity is a sign that a person is constantly judging external events as inherently bad, rather than focusing on what is within their control. Your partner complains about everything from the weather to work, and always sees the worst in situations. You can choose not to absorb this negative energy. Recognize that his worldview is his choice. Don't try to cheer him up or change his perspective, as this is out of your control. Focus on maintaining your own optimistic and rational perspective. Think to yourself, he sees the world in a pessimistic way. I don't need to agree or try to convince him otherwise. I can maintain my own disposition. Dishonesty and manipulation are contrary to the virtue of honesty and clarity in communication. They are attempts to control the other person through deceitful means. Your partner distorts facts, makes you doubt your own sanity, gaslighting, or blames you for things you didn't do. Stay grounded in reality and in your own judgments. Don't let the other person's manipulation shake your perception of the truth. If he tries to blame you, recognize that guilt is an emotion that arises from judgment, and you have the power to not accept that judgment. Think, he's trying to confuse me. My mind is my fortress. I know the truth, regardless of what he says. Stoic wisdom teaches us to accept the natural order of things and to exercise our responsibilities. Unprovoked hostility to authority may indicate a refusal to accept reality or to take responsibility. Your partner constantly defies rules, regulations, or authority figures without reasonable cause, simply out of defiance. While this is not a direct sign of abuse against you, it may indicate a mind that resists reason and order. Observe without judgment. Do not engage in actions that go against your own principles or the law, even if your partner insists. Think, He is in conflict with the external order. My job is to live according to reason and moral law. Declaring murder or abuse as something deserved reveals a profound failure of reason and the virtue of justice and humanity. It is an acceptance of violence and harm to others. Your partner makes jokes about violence, justifies assaults, or expresses the idea that someone deserved to be assaulted or killed. This is a serious sign that Stoicism, while focused on internal control, would urge us to recognize as fundamentally contrary to human reason and virtue. Your response should be to preserve your own safety and well-being. While Stoicism teaches us to accept what we cannot control, it also instructs us to act rationally to protect what is most valuable, our own virtue and physical and mental integrity. In this case, the rational action would be to seek outside help and remove ourselves from the situation. Think, these ideas are contrary to my rational and virtuous nature. My priority is to preserve my safety and integrity. Rather than questioning the other person, Stoicism invites us to question ourselves and our reactions to the behavior of others. Does my partner make me react with jealousy or possessiveness, or do I feel that my peace of mind is threatened by their actions? Jealousy and possessiveness are passions. If your partner's behavior is driving you to these irrational emotions, the problem may not be their behavior but your response to it. However, if their behavior is inherently disrespectful or seeks to undermine your autonomy, the question shifts to, is they acting in ways that challenge my ability to maintain reason and virtue? Am I allowing their quest for control to undermine my own self-control? Do I feel like I'm constantly caught in a cycle of emotional ups and downs because of my partner's actions? Their emotional instability should not be your instability. If you find yourself constantly on an emotional roller coaster because of your partner's mood swings, it's a sign that you're allowing his or her passions to rule your own peace. Ask yourself, am I allowing his or her fickleness to disrupt my ataraxia, peace of mind? Am I allowing my partner to dictate my choices about what to wear, where to go, or who to see, compromising my own autonomy and rational freedom? Our autonomy and freedom of choice within what is morally right are essential to living a virtuous life. If you feel compelled to act against your own reason, it's a sign that your autonomy is being compromised. The question is not whether he or she dictates, but whether you allow him or her to dictate. Do my partner's words and actions cause me to doubt my own worth or to distance myself from my own virtue? No one can put us down without our consent. If your partner's words make you feel down, it's a sign that you're giving their opinions of you power over your own self-worth. Virtue lies in recognizing your own intrinsic worth, regardless of what others say. Ask yourself, am I allowing their opinion of me to override my own rational assessment of my worth? Stoic philosophy teaches us that true strength lies in our ability to protect our mind and our virtue, regardless of external actions. Rather than trying to control another's abusive behavior, which is beyond our control, Stoicism empowers us to control our response to it, to assert our autonomy, and to maintain our peace of mind. Recognizing abuse in this light is an act of rational self-defense and commitment to our own moral excellence. It is an invitation to ask, does this relationship help or hinder me from living a life guided by reason and virtue? The answer to that question is the true indicator. Recognizing abuse from a Stoic perspective is not about categorizing another person, but about protecting your own mind and virtue. It is a process of self-awareness and vigilance over what you allow to affect your daimon, your rational inner self. You find yourself constantly reacting to the other person's passions, anger, jealousy, fear. Your tranquility is being disturbed by something outside of your control. The virtue of self-restraint and reason is being challenged. It is time to strengthen your ability to detach from the reactions of others. You feel compelled to change your actions or opinions to avoid the other person's anger or displeasure, even when those actions are rational and virtuous. Your autonomy is being compromised. You are allowing the fear of the other person's reaction to distance you from your own reason and free will. You feel that you are losing clarity about what is right and wrong, constantly being confused or manipulated by the other person's words. Your reason is being attacked. The virtue of wisdom requires that you maintain your ability to discern truth, regardless of attempts to manipulate you. Your environment with others prevents you from cultivating the virtues, justice, temperance, courage, wisdom. A healthy relationship should be a fertile ground for the growth of the virtues. If the environment is toxic to the point of undermining your efforts to live a good life, it is a sign that the association is not aligned with your Stoic principles. In our quest for peace of mind and virtue, Stoic philosophy offers us an invaluable compass for navigating the complexities of relationships, including those marked by coercive and abusive behavior. Rather than getting lost in trying to control the uncontrollable, the actions and intentions of others, Stoicism invites us to focus on what is within our control, our own perceptions, judgments, and reactions. When faced with manifestations of abuse, Stoic wisdom directs us not to a how to fix the other person manual, but to an internal roadmap for protecting our own inner citadel. Stoic philosophy, at its core, clearly distinguishes between what we can control, our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions, and what we cannot control, our bodies, reputations, property, and crucially, the behavior of others. Actions such as aggression, threats, humiliation, and intimidation are, from the Stoic perspective, manifestations of a disordered mind, governed by irrational passions and mistaken judgments. Those who engage in such behavior are acting against their own reason and virtue. Our role as Stoics is not to be indignant or to try to change others, but rather to protect our own peace and integrity in the face of such behavior. Aggression and humiliation are projections of the aggressor's internal disorder. Anger and the desire for control are passions that blind reason. Threats are an attempt to influence our emotions, fear, to make us act against our will. Your partner, in anger, raises his voice, insults you, and threatens to destroy an object that you value. Instead of reacting with fear or anger, which are passions, you can observe his behavior as an external phenomenon over which you have no control. You cannot control his anger, but you can control your own response. Avoid engaging in the argument if it is irrational. If the threat to your safety is real, the rational Stoic action would be to remove yourself from the dangerous situation because your physical integrity is a preferable good, not a virtue in itself, but something that allows the practice of virtue. Think, his anger does not affect me if I do not invite it into my mind. My peace is mine, not his. If there is a threat, my reason tells me to ensure my safety. Physical or emotional pain inflicted by another is an indifferent, something that is neither intrinsically good nor bad, but preferable to avoid. However, the virtue of courage allows us to endure adversity, and the virtue of prudence guides us to avoid unnecessary harm. Your partner uses constant sarcasm or demeaning jokes to punish you for some perceived failure, or scares you with sudden outbursts of anger. Remember the importance of the virtues of justice and universal fraternity. Your social connections are important to your well-being and to the practice of other virtues. You cannot control his insistence on isolating you, but you can exercise your autonomy in maintaining contact with your support networks as far as possible and safe. Think, my social relationships are important to my flourishing. I will not allow his desire for control to keep me from what is good and just. The idea of a cycle of abuse, tension, incident, reconciliation, calm, describes a pattern of behavior that repeats itself. Recognize that the intention to hurt or punish is a manifestation of his irrationality. You cannot control his actions, but you can control how they affect your judgment. Do not allow yourself to believe that you deserve such treatment. The pain he tries to inflict is not evil in itself, unless you judge it to be so. If the pain is physical or psychological and persistent, the rational action would be to seek distance and support, because the continuation of the harm impedes the practice of virtue. Think, he tries to hurt me, but the real harm only occurs if I allow the pain to corrupt my reason. My mind is my fortress, and I must protect it. Human beings are, by nature, social beings. Community and friendship are preferable indifferents that help us live a virtuous life. Isolation is an attempt at control, undermining your autonomy and your ability to seek wisdom from other sources. Your partner criticizes your friends, tries to keep you from seeing your family, or discourages you from participating in social activities that you enjoy. Repeated abusive behavior is a reflection of the abuser's persistent irrational passions and judgments. He is trapped in his own mental vices. For the abused, the cycle is an opportunity to reaffirm his own reason with each new phase. You cannot break his cycle, but you can break the cycle of your own complacency or irrational hope for change. Your partner abuses, apologizes, there is a period of calm, and then it all starts again. Recognize the pattern without deluding yourself. Reconciliation does not erase past acts. Don't hold on to the hope that he will change, because that is beyond your control. Focus on your own response to each stage. In the calm phase, you can make rational decisions about your safety and well-being without being influenced by the illusion that the problem is over. Think, his actions are cyclical, but my mind doesn't have to be. I can use each calm to plan for my safety and autonomy without deluding myself with false promises of change. For the Stoic, ignorance of the good is the root of all evil. Many people act badly because they are unaware of what is good and virtuous. An emotional abuser may not be fully aware of his vices, but that does not absolve him of the responsibility to seek reason and virtue. Your partner displays abusive behavior, but when confronted, he genuinely seems unaware of the harm he is causing. You can have compassion for his ignorance, but you should not condone his actions. Your job is to protect your own reason and virtue. If his ignorance leads him to harm you, the rational thing to do is to walk away. You are not responsible for enlightening the other person, only for safeguarding yourself. Think, he acts out of ignorance, and that's unfortunate. But my priority is my own integrity. I'm not a teacher for his soul. The physical and psychological indicators of abuse, such as trauma, pain, self-harm, humiliation, and threats, are all indifferent and undesirable, things we'd rather avoid, but that don't make us inherently bad if we experience them. If your body or mind is being harmed, your ability to practice virtue may be affected. Prudence demands that you protect your body and mind so that you can live a virtuous life. You notice physical signs of self-harm, or you feel your self-esteem and sanity being constantly undermined by name-calling and put-downs. The abuser's reaction when confronted, threatening, intimidating, blaming, ridiculing, is typical behavior of a mind that refuses to see its own vices and take responsibility. It tries to manipulate the situation to maintain control by projecting its own failures. Acknowledge the harm as a fact. Do not blame yourself. Your virtue is not diminished by the fact that you are a victim. The rational action is to seek help and protection. Your life and your mental health are the most valuable assets for practicing virtue. Think, my body and mind are the vehicles of my reason. I must protect them in order to continue to live a virtuous life. Seeking help is not weakness, it is prudence. Narcissistic control tactics, manipulation, exploitation, gaslighting, idealization/devaluation, isolation, blame-shifting, lack of empathy, are all attempts to subvert your reason and autonomy. The narcissist seeks external control that is beyond his or her reach. Lack of empathy is a failure of the virtue of justice and humanity. Gaslighting is an attempt to distort your perception of reality. Your partner manipulates you into doing things against your will, makes you doubt your own thoughts and feelings, and alternates between putting you on a pedestal and humiliating you. Strengthen your inner fortitude. Trust your own senses and your own reason. Hold on to truth and objective reality. Idealizing and devaluing is a ploy to keep you trapped, but your value does not lie in his validation. Think, he is trying to control me through illusion. My mind is impenetrable if I hold on to reason and truth. My value is inherent, not dependent on his opinion. Stockholm Syndrome, where the victim develops a psychological connection with the abuser, is a complex defense mechanism. In extreme situations of deprivation of freedom, the mind may seek survival mechanisms. However, Stoicism reminds us that our most fundamental freedom is that of our mind, our ability to choose our perceptions and judgments. You may find yourself defending your abuser, minimizing his or her actions, or feeling an inexplicable loyalty despite the suffering. Recognize this as a possible psychological reaction to trauma, not as an unquestionable truth. Remember that the only thing that truly belongs to us is our ability to judge. Sympathy for those who harm us may be a way of trying to control an uncontrollable situation. Rational action would be to seek professional help to deconstruct this connection and reaffirm your mental autonomy. Think, my mind may be deceived by circumstances, but my reason tells me that the truth is that abuse is unacceptable. I must fight to free my mind from any servitude, even if it is self-imposed. The indicators of the abuser's behavior, intimidation, undermining confidence, humiliation, ridicule, are all attempts at external control and destabilization of your inner peace. You try to express your suffering or confront the abuser, and he reacts with threats, denial, blame shifting, and making you feel ridiculous. Don't expect a rational response or immediate change. The Stoic understands that real change comes from within and cannot be forced. Your job is not to win the argument, but to protect your own mind from toxicity. Recognize that his or her reaction is a pattern of disorder. Think to yourself, he or she reacts with passion and irrationality because he or she cannot see the truth. My job is not to persuade him or her, but to protect myself from his or her projection of chaos. Genuine change from abusive behavior requires deep inner work on the part of the abuser, a reorientation of the mind toward reason and virtue. This is completely out of your control. You live in the hope that your abusive partner will change, but the patterns repeat themselves. Stoicism cautions against irrational hope of passion. Focus on the changes you can control in your own life. Recognize that the other person's change is a never mind, something that can happen, but is not your responsibility and should not be the basis for your happiness or security. Your energy should be directed towards strengthening your own resilience, your autonomy, and if necessary, removing yourself from the abusive situation to preserve your virtue and well-being. Think, I cannot change his will, nor can I expect him to change. My energy must be directed toward what is within my control, my own mind, my own actions, and the assurance of my own safety and peace. Stoic philosophy offers us a powerful framework for dealing with abuse, not by futilely trying to control the abuser, but by strengthening our own inner citadel. It equips us with the tools to maintain our reason, our autonomy, and our calm, even in the face of the greatest adversity and the irrationality of others. True victory lies not in changing the abuser, but in remaining virtuous and serene in the midst of chaos. On our journey toward virtue and tranquility of soul, Stoic philosophy offers us profound insight into how we cultivate our own resilience and protect ourselves, not by constantly vigilantly watching over others, but by strengthening our inner citadel. For a Stoic, however, the issue is not about attracting abuse as if we were passively responsible for it. Instead, the emphasis is on how our own perceptions and judgments of ourselves and others can make us more vulnerable to allowing the virtuous behavior of others to affect our peace and autonomy. Remember, abusive behavior is a character flaw in the abuser, not a flaw in the victim. Stoicism enables us to harden our minds against the irrationality of others without blaming ourselves for it. True self-esteem is not based on the opinions of others or on external achievements, but on the recognition of our own intrinsic worth as rational beings. The judgment that we are inferior or incapable is an infatuation, an error of reason. You feel insecure in a new social situation. Your partner notices and makes a subtle but disparaging comment about your inability. Instead of internalizing the comment and confirming your insecurity, recognize that his opinion is his, not yours. Your virtue and worth as a human being are not diminished by someone else's observation. Your self-esteem is an internal judgment, not an external concession. Think, his opinion of me is indifferent. My worth lies in my ability to reason and act virtuously, and he cannot take that away. Engage in self-reflection and acknowledge your own rational qualities. True happiness, eudaimonia, does not reside in external goods or the approval of others, but in virtue and peace of mind. To depend on others for your happiness or sustenance is to place your well-being in the hands of the uncontrollable. You feel extremely unhappy if your partner is in a bad mood or if your income depends entirely on him/her, which prevents you from making independent decisions. Develop your independence from passion by learning that happiness is an internal state, independent of external circumstances or the mood of the other person. Seek to develop resources and skills that give you greater autonomy, whether professionally or in terms of emotional self-control. Think, my happiness is not hostage to someone else's mood or material possessions. I can cultivate my own peace and seek the means that allow me to act with more freedom and purpose without excessively depending on something or someone external. Guilt is a passion that arises from misjudgment. Blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong is attributing to your self-control over events that are largely external and therefore beyond your control. A challenging situation arises in your life, and your partner quickly makes you feel that it is your fault. You habitually accept the blame. Clearly distinguish between what is within your control, your intentions, efforts, and what is not, outside results, actions of others. Take responsibility for your own actions, but refuse to accept blame for what is beyond your control. Celebrate your achievements as the fruits of your efforts and virtue. Think, I am responsible for my actions and intentions, not for the end result of everything. The accusations of others are just opinions. My worth is not diminished by something beyond my control. Although the Stoic values the self-sufficiency of the soul, he also recognizes the social nature of human beings and the importance of community in practicing the virtues of justice and benevolence. Your partner, subtly or overtly, discourages your friendships and family contacts, arguing that they don't understand you or are a bad influence. You start to walk away. Prioritize maintaining virtuous relationships that support you in your pursuit of reason and goodness. Do not allow another person's desire for control to separate you from sources of support and diverse views. Wisdom also comes from exchange with other rational beings. Think, nurturing healthy friendships and family ties is part of the virtuous life. I will not give up the wisdom and support that the community can offer to please a single individual. Submission to the will of another, when that will is irrational or contrary to your own reason and principles of virtue, is a loss of your moral autonomy. Your partner constantly pressures you to do things you do not want to do, or to change your plans and desires to fit theirs, and you give in to avoid conflict. However, being overly tolerant, to the point of allowing the irrationality and vice of others to cause harm to oneself or others without setting boundaries, is a failure of prudence and justice. Your partner regularly verbally disrespects you or lies to you, and you forgive and forget, without changing your behavior because you believe you are being kind or tolerant. Distinguish between accepting what cannot be changed, the behavior of others, and passively tolerating harm. Forgiving is letting go of anger. It does not mean allowing the harmful behavior to continue. You have the right and responsibility to protect your peace and integrity. Set clear boundaries, and, if necessary, distance yourself from those who consistently act in a deviant manner. Think to yourself, forgiving does not mean tolerating vice. My job is to protect my virtue and peace, even if it means distancing myself from those who persistently cause harm. Apathy and lack of purpose are contrary to the active and rational nature of the human being. Virtue requires action and continuous effort to improve yourself and contribute to the common good. You feel stagnant, lacking the energy to pursue your own goals or engage in meaningful activities, and your partner takes advantage of this inertia to control you. Find your inner motivation in the pursuit of virtue and wisdom. Set goals that are aligned with reason and that promote your flourishing as a human being. Motivation should not come from outside, but from an intrinsic commitment to your own improvement. Virtuous action is its own reward. Think, my energy and motivation come from my commitment to living in accordance with reason and virtue. I will not allow inertia to keep me from my true purpose. Rather than questioning others, Stoicism invites us to constantly self-evaluate the impact of our relationships on our own virtue and serenity. The essence of Stoic protection against abuse lies not in avoiding being a weak prey, but in cultivating a strong, unshakable mind that is unperturbed by external events or the irrationality of others. Virtue is the only impenetrable fortress. By focusing on what you can control, your own judgments, attitudes, and choices, you become immune to the real harm, which is the harm to your own soul.
The Virtual Books publishing team thanks for your visit. If you liked our channel, please subscribe and share.